Hola y bienvenido a Learn Spanish en SpanishDict.com. Soy Paralee Whitmire y soy tu profesora. Hoy aprenderás del subjuntivo y la salud, como recomienda que tome las pastillas, prohíbe que coma comida basura y mucho más. ¡Vámonos! Espero que tengas una vida saludable, pero si hay un accidente o estás enfermo, es buena idea saber los consejos del doctor. Recommendations and suggestions are pretty similar to commands, so it shouldn't be hard to remember that they too must be in the subjunctive. And like we have said before, it's not always polite to go around just commanding people to do things. So these consejos, or little pieces of advice, are a great way to tell someone what to do without sounding super rude. So let's spend a few minutes in the doctor's office with a few different people. Listen to what ails each person and pay close attention to the advice the doctor gives, especially to how he forms his verbs. ¿Listo? Ay, doctor, estornudo mucho. Creo que tengo una alergia. Oh, doctor, I sneeze a lot. I think I have an allergy. Recomiendo que evite gatos, perros y flores. También sugiero que tome estas pastillas cada mañana. I recommend that you avoid cats, dogs, and flowers. I also suggest that you take these pills every morning. Doctor, tengo fiebre de 38 grados centígrados. Doctor, I have a fever of 38 degrees Celsius. Recomiendo que tome una aspirina con agua y duerma mucho. I recommend that you take an aspirin with water and sleep a lot. Doctor, tengo mucha tos y me duele la garganta. I cough a lot and my throat hurts. Sugiero que tome este jarabe 2 veces al día. I suggest that you take this syrup 2 times a day. Ay, doctor, me duele la cabeza y siempre estoy estornudando. Oh, doctor, I have a headache and I am always sneezing. ¿Tiene usted un resfriado? Recomiendo que beba mucha agua y coma sopa. Prohíbe que coma comida basura. You have a cold. I recommend that you drink a lot of water and eat soup. I prohibit that you eat junk food. No hay nada nueva en esos ejemplos. Ya sabes el subjuntivo para usted. What is new in these examples, though, is that you saw both the indicative and the subjunctive in each of the doctor's recommendations. All of those examples had 2 very important parts to them. The first is the main clause, or independent clause, which was in the indicative mood. And the second part, everything following the relative pronoun que, is the subordinate clause, which is in the subjunctive. But let's not get bogged down with complicated grammatical terms. Let's just practice using the subjunctive as a recommendation. Now, my examples were all conversations between a doctor and a patient, so all of the verbs were in the yo or usted forms. I think we should try some with different forms, don't you? Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, I haven't learned the rest of the endings for the present subjunctive yet. And you're right, but I bet you can figure them out after hearing me talk about them for the past few lessons. First, let's take a look at what you already know, the tú, usted, and ustedes forms. For AR verbs, you'll use ES, E, and EN as your endings. For ER and IR verbs, you'll use AS, A, and AN. Now you've heard me say over and over that AR verbs will use E's in their endings, and ER and IR verbs will use A's in the present subjunctive. So let's go ahead and add those up there. Now all that's left to do is add the rest of the endings you already know. The yo form is done. Don't add a thing. But do notice it has the same form as the third person singular. We'll touch on that a little more later. Now, what 3 letters do you think you'll add to the nosotros form? M-O-S. Great. That gives us EMOS for AR verbs and AMOS for ER and IR verbs. And if I put a tilde on the vowels for the vosotros forms, do you think you can guess the next two letters? IS. That gives us E with a tilde IS for AR verbs and A with a tilde IS for ER and IR verbs. That's it! They are so much like the indicative present endings, you should have no trouble. Just switch the main vowel. Alright, it's time for some practice now that you know the different forms. Imagine that you are the doctor this time, and I'll ask you for some recommendations on a few different situations for different people. I'll even give you the subject, the infinitive, and the yo form of the verb you need to put into the subjunctive. Hagamos uno juntos primero. First, your patient says, Doctor, soy gordo y siempre estoy cansado. So he is fat and always tired. What do you recommend? You are familiar with this person, so address him using the tú form, which you can see here in parentheses. Now, I think a good suggestion would be to use the treadmill, build up that energy and lose some pounds. You can see the infinitive hacer and the yo form hago. Just find the subjunctive stem and add the tú subjunctive ending. What is the tú subjunctive ending for an ER verb? The letters A, S. So let's try it in conversation. Doctor, soy gordo y siempre estoy cansado. Recomiendo que hagas cinta. Bien. Doctor, tú y yo necesitamos hacer más ejercicio. ¿Qué sugieras? Sugiero que hagamos bicicleta o hagamos ejercicios aeróbicas cada día. Doctor, queremos músculos grandes. ¿Qué nos aconseja? Os aconsejo que hagáis flexiones y levantéis pesas. Doctor, las piernas siempre me duelen cuando corro. Recomiendo que estire bien antes de correr.